Hi, this is Matt from tracyandmatt.co.uk and from unboxings.com. Here I have the new Huawei S7 Android tablet. I'm going to do a quick unboxing video for you before we actually just do our full review. So quite a large box, because inside we do have a fairly large tablet. It's a 7-inch display, quite wide in terms of, well, I'll turn it around the right way. It's quite a widescreen sort of style tablet. Comes back to that in just a second. Take a look at the other bits and pieces we've got in the box. So we've got a quick start guide, which is very basic in actual fact. It looks like we've got about not even 8 pages, 6 pages in each language to cover the getting started, the basics and so on. Inside we have a USB to micro USB standard sort of sync charge style cable, and as I actually have an early sort of European model here, I have a European style wall charger with the 2 round pins and sort of a bullet style connector and a UK to European adapter. Obviously if you buy a UK model, you'll have the UK cables and everything else. So taking a look at the tablet itself, as I say, it feels quite weighty. That's the initial sort of impression. 7-inch display, which is 800 by 480 pixels, not the highest of resolutions considering the screen size if you compare it to, say, the Galaxy Tab, which is a much higher res. We have a forward-facing camera, and then we also have like phone keys, so answer and hang up, little navigation and a push button, a loudspeaker or microphone on the front rather, home, menu and back buttons on this side. And they are actually physical buttons. I don't know if you can actually hear that, but they are tactile rather than touch sensitive. On this left hand side we have an up and down volume control and a loudspeaker. On the bottom, micro SD card slot, and then what looks like a proprietary style connector on the bottom. Kind of looks a bit like a sort of an iPod style connector. On the right hand side then we have the power, and then the micro USB for, well, synchronization. I don't think you can charge over USB with this device. Another loudspeaker. Then sort of on the top of the unit we have the power button, and then a 3.5mm headphone jack. Now I think with the actual full product you're probably going to get wired headset so that we can use it for making calls or whatever. But that's not included in my sort of, well, I think this is pre-release. On the back we have a stand that has a multi-position lock, so obviously locks in a closed position and in 2 other positions, which does allow us to stand it on a table or more angled. So that's quite cool, and it's made of metal, so seems like it'll be fairly robust. Lifting this out of the way, we can gain access to the battery. So the battery's in place. It's a fairly large battery. As you can see here, 2,200 milliamp hours. It's quite large, quite sizable battery in itself. Pops in place, and then a space for our SIM card, so we can use it for like your 3G connectivity. There we go. So let's just power on. And while we wait for that to power up, let me just have a quick rundown of the specification. Obviously it's an Android tablet. This one is running Android 2.1 Eclair. Rumours of a 2.2 update, well, haven't been confirmed. 768 MHz processor. It's a Qualcomm Snapdragon running at 768. 512 meg of RAM and 512 meg of ROM, and also 4 gig of internal storage. We do have on the bottom that micro SD card socket, and that does support up to 32 gig micro SDHC memory cards, which is also pretty decent. To say 800 by 480 touchscreen is a TFT resistive rather than capacitive. GSM bands it supports, it's quad band, and for HSDPA it is tri-band, so it's going to work practically everywhere. You're going to take it throughout the world when you're roaming or you're on holiday, whatever. Bluetooth 2.1 with EDR support and Wi-Fi supporting 802.11b, G and N standards. It also has built-in GPS, supporting a GPS. That forward-facing camera is only 2 megapixel, but it's designed as a forward-facing for video conferencing and stuff like that, rather than for sort of, taking photos. The lithium-ion battery, as I say, is 2,200 milliamp hours, which has a claimed battery life of 3 to 4 hours of use and 100 hours of standby. Dimensions, it's 209 millimeters wide. As I say, it is quite a wide screen or wide tablet. So 209 millimeters wide, 108 millimeters tall, and just over 15.5 millimeters thick at the thickest point. and it does feel quite weighty. It's 500 grams, which does seem like an awful lot. I think it's to do with the styling and the size, and this outside being metal, and it just all sort of contributes to the fact that it feels reasonably heavy. When we start up, we have this sort of, well, it's an overlay to Android with the screen, as you can see there. So we have obviously the weather and the time, and a couple of widgets on the side here. As I understand it, and I really haven't used this tablet as yet, this is the first time to play with it, but as I understand it, you can't turn this overlay off on the Huawei. We'll obviously confirm that when we do our full review, but that's what we understand. So along the bottom we've got home, web, entertainment, communications, favourites, and then a button here at the side which brings up the full menu. As you can see there, all of our installed applications, including things like YouTube, calendars and camcorder and bits and pieces like that, Facebook pre-installed, Gmail, etc. And if we hit the home button, it takes us back out to here. Icons along the top tell us that Bluetooth is currently off, Wi-Fi's off, automatic backlight control, no reception, battery status and information. Don't know what the I is there. There we go. It tells us what our running applications are, I guess. So that's there. It's interesting that somebody else must have used this prior to us, because there seem to be some applications there that seem to be running. Under here, well, we can go to communications, and let's go, and you can see here that we've got the phone. We've got a phone dialer, so we can actually use it as a telephone, email, call log and contacts. And if I go back home, it takes us back to the home screen, and push menu. We've got a start with standard icons along the bottom, so we go to settings, wireless and networks, turn the Wi-Fi on. Now, because it is such a large screen, an 800 by 480, it's not particularly high res, and I apologise for the reflection here. We can't shoot at the moment, we can't video in a normal location, unfortunately, but hopefully you can see enough. So let's have a look at the Wi-Fi points. Let's go and set up a wireless network. As you can see, a large QWERTY keyboard there. It's a standard Android QWERTY keyboard, but it's nice and large because of the orientation and the size of the screen. Okay, so it takes a second or two to actually set up the connection, which we now have. So we can come back out here, go back home, and we can go to the web. We can take a look at, obviously it's in Chinese here at the moment, we can go to the browser. Initially it's going to Google. If we pull down, we can go to our site. Okay, one of the suggestions. Well, a large screen does mean that it's quite nice to actually use the internet, and being wide is also advantageous. Again, the resolution being only 800 wide on such a large screen does mean that it doesn't seem to be the highest. Obviously it's not the highest of res, so text is a little bit fuzzy there. It's readable, absolutely readable, no problem with it, but it is a little fuzzy around the edges, especially if it's quite small. But we can obviously scroll through. We can double tap to zoom, as it's saying here. There's no two-finger zooming though, because being a resistive touchscreen, it's not going to support it. But you know, it's just one of those things. You've got to consider the fact that it's a much less expensive tablet than, say, the Galaxy Tab. This one is only what, £280, which is about half the price of the Galaxy Tab at the moment. So and certainly about half the price of the iPad. So there are some options there, but you know, double tapping zooms in and out, and obviously we do have the zoom controls underneath here in the corner, so we can zoom in more than just tapping, or we can zoom out conversely as well. But it works quite well. I mean, it's certainly very usable. It's rendering the page quite well. It's all laid out quite nicely. It basically works just like a desktop browser. If I rotate it that way round, then we can actually see it this way, which might be better for certain sites depending on their layout. And obviously if we tap here in the corner, it actually isn't offering the option to zoom out as I'd expect down the corner here, but nevertheless it does work, as I say, reasonably well. It's a fairly fast browser as well. It loaded very quickly, obviously over broadband here, but it seemed to load quite quickly without much of a problem. And if we go back home, we can go and have a look at all the other applications. So let's take a look at initially YouTube. We'll do a search, and we'll have a look for YouTube account name, which is Leo D. And that loaded very quickly, so let's take a look at the double streak, being the top one, or second from top. That's cool, that started playing reasonably quickly. Buffering time, well, it doesn't take very long to buffer. Hi everyone, this is Matt from Tracy and Matt. So that's working rather well, no problems with that. Come back out of there, we obviously can go back home and take a look at some of the other applications we've got on here. We've got Facebook there, we've got email, documents to go. Android Market is obviously there. Android Market isn't installed on every Android tablet, and there are hacks available for some of those that don't include it. But if we just sign into the market, it'll take a second or two to sign in and go back. Obviously the terms and conditions which we'll accept. And it loads quite well. I mean, Android Market is Android Market. It doesn't really vary depending on the handset. Obviously you've got your apps here, and then you've got games, and then downloads, which often suggests no updates. Well, that's unusual. Almost always get an update. But that is then going to sign into your Gmail account, because obviously they're linked. So it's just waiting for sync, which we won't bother with, but that will synchronize with your Gmail account. You can also set up other email accounts in here. So if you go into manual setup, I should put something in. And look at the manual setup. We can set up POP3, IMAP and Exchange. So we've got Exchange, Active Sync, email support. That's pretty cool. RSS Reader, Google Talk there. So you have a weather, which is obviously showing Beijing at the moment. Twidroid is included. Messaging for text messaging and so forth. That's pretty cool. Documents to go, memos, gallery, camcorders, call log, calendar. Everything you really would expect to see on an Android phone or tablet seems to be pre-installed. We've got entertainment on this home screen. Whether or not we can customize these, yeah, you can add shortcuts and widgets and a few other bits and pieces. Whether or not, as I say, we can actually remove this theming, not sure at the moment, but we can also swipe across rather than just hitting the icons along the bottom, so we can actually look through. There are some blank pages that we can add widgets to as well, so there is some flexibility there, so that's pretty good. And there seems to be plenty of pages that we can add to if we want to. So yes, we have that sort of overlay there. So this is the Huawei S7 Android tablet. We'll have a full review for you over the next couple of weeks. Inevitably we're going to have to compare it to, say, the Galaxy Tab, and also I suppose to the iPad to some degree, and we'll tell you what we think, whether or not it is a contender. And obviously there's going to be some sort of consideration we have to make in terms of the price, being much cheaper than the other two tablets I've just mentioned. At the moment this is available from our friends over at Clove Technology at clove.co.uk, just over £280, which isn't bad. Full review for you over the next couple of weeks on tracyandmatt.co.uk. In the meantime, if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's twitter.com/tracyandmatt, or on Facebook, facebook.com/tracyandmatt.co.uk. Back soon with some more videos and reviews, but for now, thanks for watching.